And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Clutter Talk Live. I'm just going to have to turn off the music, which seems to be going on still. Oh my goodness. Where's it gone? I have no idea. Here it is. There we go. Welcome, everybody. So this week is the second series of Clutter Talk. And what we're going to be looking at today is the changing of the seasons. And so I'm sat here with my nice cup of tea, and to many of my clients and people that I work with, I call my work kind of intelligent tea drinking. So often the first thing I'll do with a client is sit down or on the phone and have a cup of tea, and we'll really have a sort of a good talk and a good listen about what they want and what's going on. So hopefully everybody watching this is sat there, you've got yourself a nice cuppa, and we can all drink it together and share our tea or coffee whilst we talk about the changing of the seasons and the clock changings next Sunday or this coming Sunday, and issues like seasonal affective disorder and how we can really kind of keep ourselves warm and cozy and content over this new season. So I'm now going to admit from the waiting room, we have Elaine of Clear Mountain and Clara of Joyous Space, who are going to come in and say hello to everybody. Hello,
hey,
Elaine.
hi.
Hello, Clara.
Hi there.
How are you both doing? Now, I just need to sort out my earpiece at the moment. So, Elaine, why don't you start off by telling people about your week and how your work's going whilst I sort out my earpiece?
Okie dokie. So, so hi everybody. I am sitting at a beautiful window this morning. I've got to tell you this before I start, and it has the most magnificent full rainbow right across the whole of my window this morning. So I'm sitting right in the center of that. So that's made me really happy this morning. I've had a really good week, thanks. I've been working with different clients since last Wednesday, all different types of jobs actually this week. Worked with someone who was a librarian and was checking out some books to let go of. Worked with a writer just yesterday, clearing her reading room actually, so they were kind of similar jobs. I've helped a couple of clients with paperwork, and I had a very big job clearing out what the client described as a dumping ground, which was a spare room that was full of toys. So we managed to get loads of toys off to a charity, which we had started last week and finished this week. So lots of different things going on for me. What about you, Clara?
Morning.
Morning, Clara. Welcome. This is your first episode of the series.
I know. I'm so
really
excited.
Good to see you. Did you have a good half term?
Oh, I had a lovely half term. I have to say though, I'm so happy the kids are back to school, and it just feels like I'm about 15 stones lighter. But that's because I had my son off on Monday, not well. So I thought, I'm getting him back to school, and I had to go and collect him and have a doctor's appointment for him. So I'm really happy to be on my own, like a fully grown adult without children, and I've been enjoying working this week. And interestingly, the two jobs kind of affected each other. One is with someone who's preparing for a health appointment, and so preparing their home, preparing what they need to do up until their health appointment, because it's quite complicated with COVID tests, with self-isolating, and it's a private health appointment, which adds more steps into it. So I enjoyed that one. And that person was getting rid of a beautiful goose down mattress topper. And the other person I've been working with is a gentleman and his daughter who live in a most beautiful idyllic cottage, but they hadn't decluttered for about a decade. And so I've been helping them declutter so that they can prepare to decorate. And the mattress topper went to the person in the cottage who doesn't have heating who doesn't have internal heating. They do have a fire, a real fire, but it's not working. It's waiting repair for the chimney. So that was a really happy transfer, which both clients were really happy to have that transfer happen. So very different, one in a flat that's got central heating and one in a cottage that's kind of a bit like going back in time, beautifully atmospheric, the cottage. So I've been enjoying that this week, in between vet appointments and doctor appointments for the people I live with.
Oh, that's great. And actually being able to find, like, someone didn't need something and then let it go, and then finding a new home just then and there must have been really satisfying for everybody. Yeah,
and the person who got it is so appreciative, just really sleeping better, cozy, warm. And I also did a declutter recently, and I had a massively thick winter duvet that we weren't using, so I donated that to that particular client. So they said they were sleeping on a cloud on the mattress topper with the thick duvet over them. They were so cozy. So it's lovely to, when your things, you feel like they're going to a great home. It makes it very easy to let them go.
Mm-hmm. And I think that really nicely brings us into the topic that we're going to be talking about today. And to let everybody know, so I'm Zamira Moffat, or Dr. Zen Moffat, and we're all based in Glasgow. So we've got Elaine of Clear Mountain over there, wave, and down the bottom of the screen we've got Clara of Joy of Space, and we are the Glasgow's Decluttering Dream Team. But I'm currently in the Forest of Dean. Don't know why I'm pointing at the stonework, but I think it's very, the stone is very, the pinky stone is very part of this area. So I actually kind of put a note out to the people who attend the group that I sort of set up called Clutter Chat, which is a support group for people with sort of chronic clutter. And I said, well, what would you want to talk about this today? What is your advice? Because they often come up with really good ideas about what they would like to know. So if anyone out there has any other questions about what you would like to know, what particular things about changing of the seasons, how we can cope with it, manage it, even enjoy it, then please do message us in the YouTube channel. You can put comments down the YouTube channel, and Elaine and Clara are going to be keeping an eye on that. Mm-hmm. And so we'll try and track conversations, because we'd love to take in sort of more questions. But I'll start the ball rolling. Okay. And I think both Elaine and Clara have some really good kind of answers to kind of what's going on. So one of the members said he'd be interested in what would help with seasonal affective disorder. For those unable to use sad lamps, because it could be adding to clutter as well. If you buy another lamp, it could be adding to clutter. And suggested bought a bunch of nice cozy Nordic socks, which I think Clara's kind of touched on as well. And some artificial plants. If you don't think you're a good sort of plant person, then something to just sort of brighten the mood. Oh, there, Clara's got some plants. Yeah. They don't look artificial though.
I have lots of artificial plants because...
Are they artificial?
Yep. I don't have a green finger. I kill every plant, apart from I've got a couple of succulents that I've managed to keep alive. It's better. I'm a better mother than I am a plant.
Excellent. Good. Wonderful. And so we've got another question. So that idea of like, what do we need? What can we get? Should we retire our summer wardrobe? What do you think? Layering dresses with leggings and boots. What should you do in terms of your style? Is it a chance to change your style, or how could that work? And also, if your house is quite maybe north facing light, what can you do to brighten it up? Maybe some spot lamps was one of the ideas. Another idea that came through was actually just polishing your surfaces. So clean the windows, make everything sparkle, because that'll just make all the light just kind of jingle jangle and sparkle and lift and sort of lift the mood. So those are some ideas that have come through from the Clutter Chat group, and really just take the seasonal change to just kind of hunker down, read a book, be cozy. But obviously this is not suitable for everybody's life and lifestyle. So what we'll look at in this program is what little things each of us can do, no matter where you're living or what your lifestyle is or what your demands are, to just kind of gradually lift the mood. And I'm actually going to now pass on to Elaine, who has, I think, a top tip and a top suggestion.
Well, what we're going to talk about this morning very briefly is once we've decluttered, about managing how we keep a clutter-free home. And I have a top tip that I tell to every client that I go to, and that is to use when the clocks go back and when the clocks go forward as your trigger to declutter. Okay, it's a natural part of the year. Everybody knows it's going to happen. It's advertised everywhere, and obviously the days get longer when we're going in the summer, and then they're getting shorter when it's the winter. So these are natural parts of the year that can trigger you to declutter. Okay, so what I usually leave, I'm going to share the screen here. I leave this little diagram with clients just to remind them about what to do. And I'm just going to try and share the screen here if I can. And here it's coming here. Hopefully share. Boom. There it is. Is that us? Can you see it? Can you guys see that?
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, so this is my clock. Obviously, the clock goes back, clock goes forward, and it's a little idea of what you can do. So decluttering your wardrobe, changing around as you talked about there. Do we change from summer clothes to winter clothes? Well, actually in Scotland, we kind of wear the same clothes all year because we don't really have seasons. So that's the first thing. Second thing is paperwork. And by paperwork, I mean going through any paper invoices or bills or statements that, you don't need anymore. Remove them. Remember about data protection, shred them. But also looking at your utility bills and things like that. Can you get a better deal? Can you change to a better deal? Can you do that? These are all good things for your paperwork. That's credit card bills or any sort of bills like that. Have a look at that. Make sure everything's paid. Is there a better rate you can get somewhere else if you're using those types of things? So that's my sort of financial sort of idea for checking out. Bottles or sauces and things like that might be out of date in your cupboard. I always do a quick 6 monthly declutter of my cupboards just in case there's anything lurking at the back of the cupboard that I haven't seen for ages. Fire safety is the next one. Check your fire alarms, check your smoke alarms, make sure batteries and all that are working. And I don't know about England, but in Scotland, there is new regulations coming out about fire alarms. But you can always get a free fire check from the fire service. And one of our colleagues over in Edinburgh had a small fire in her house, and that has really highlighted, to all of us as Abdo members, that's the Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers, to talk to our clients about risks of fire. So remember that. I like to have,
Can I just say that it's by February 2021, all homes must have the hardwired fire. So we've not actually got long. All homes must have it by February 2021, they say.
Actually, I think, Clara, I don't know, I'll check that out, but I think last night there was an announcement by the Scottish Government saying that they're going to have to put that off till next year. But it is always a good thing to check. So definitely everybody, please check that. Going on to car insurances, car MOTs, all that. Make sure everything's up to date for the winter. Making sure your car is up to date for the winter. Make sure the oil, and you've got antifreeze, you've got your scrapers, all that sort of things as we go into the winter. And the last one there is foods. I just do a major clear out of any foods that are lying about that I'm not using. Any that are within date, off to the food bank for someone else to use. Any that are out of date, disposed of properly. So that's a little sort of diagram that I leave with my clients once I've done a kind of 6 monthly declutter, which sometimes I do. So there are some top tips for you, and just be mindful of what you've got in the house and what you actually need in the house. And as I say, use the clocks going back and the clocks going forward as your trigger to start your decluttering project. There we go.
I love that idea. And I'm also loving the idea that in autumn we get an extra hour in bed. I like that idea as well. So yeah, spring forward, fall back, exactly. To use the American expression. Do both of you have your cup of tea, by the way? Do you have a
I do,
drink?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
I've got water.
cheers.
Cheers.
Yay. There we go.
I see Mr. Mckinlay's lurking about at the back. I don't know if he could bring me a fresh cup, but I don't know if he's
That would be
listening.
nice, wouldn't it?
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Because he's in his home office upstairs and he's obviously come out of it for his break to get his little cup of tea and snack. So
It's a bit early for break, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. He's been working since 7:30, so that's
Ah,
his. Yeah.
That's his fair dues.
And that's an interesting point, actually, when you're working from home about adapting your day. So what he found was that he liked to do things in the garden, even at this time of year, later on in the afternoon. So he decided, okay, I'm going to start work earlier, do my full day so that I've got the time at the other end. And it's a good de-stressing mechanism. He loves to potter and pick up leaves and do all that kind of stuff. So he just starts work earlier and he finishes earlier at the end of the day, unless he's got some meeting. So I think within lockdown as well, and the way we're now starting to work, the new norm, we can adapt a little bit more and we can fit things into our life slightly better because it's a bit more flexible for us to take our so-called leisure time or relaxation time. So I would encourage people to think about that as well. It's different when you've got strict, possible opening hours for businesses and you're still in the home, I guess that way. He's a consultant, so he's like, can jiggle things about. But even at that, you have the ability possibly to change your working day. So embrace it, I would say.
Yeah, if you can, do.
If you can.
Absolutely. I'm admiring, Elaine, all the light in your room.
Yes.
Like there. So, and I think, could you just maybe go through some of your ideas about how you've kind of maximized the light? And also in terms of time, because the light is getting a lot shorter and it is nice to be outside if you can, sort of during daylight hours, because it does have an absolute kind of positive psychological effect. But what you've done in that room, if it's a really dreary day, you've managed to maximize the light. So how have you done that, Elaine?
Yeah, I am very, very much into a bright house. And I know that's not for everybody, but that for us is how it works. So I use a lot, and I mean it because my sister laughs at me, a lot of mirrors in my house to bounce light around small spaces. So this is quite a long and narrow room. It used to be the garage and it's now been turned into this kind of multi-purpose room. And when we were changing it, we had to think, right, okay, so it's a long dark room and it's only going to have one window at one end. And we thought that could be quite dark. So what we have done in this room is we have, as you can see at the back, we have patio doors, which bring in a lot of light. And then I've used, if I can use the mirrors here, can I have my fingers? I've used the mirrors here on the wall to bounce light opposite the door, which is on this side here. So I've got light from the lounge coming in the door, bouncing off the mirrors, which then elongate the room. I've also got a big front window, which I'm sitting at just now when I'm looking out. So that brings a lot of light in.
That's where you saw the rainbow. Is the rainbow
That's where I
still
saw
there?
the rainbow. I've got two Velux windows up here, two small, long Velux windows in the roof. So I've got light coming down. I've got light coming in and out both ends. I've got light bouncing off the mirrors, and I've got mirrors in all rooms because I just love light, and that gives me a great feeling. And I just feel good I hate when it's dark. I hate sitting in a dark room. So, but that's just me. I know a lot of people like a coziness. But in saying that, it's a very bright room. I've got obviously kind of lights in it as well, kind of sparkly lights, which I like. But also what I've done is to warm it up, because it could be a very kind of cold looking room because it's very white. I've brought nature indoors. So like Clara, I've got plants, one there and one over the other side. I've also got wood, as you can see from my hanging bits there. And I've got natural wood things at the back there. So that's bringing wood in. And I've got colours, as in cushions and throws and things like that, which just tie it all together. So that's this room, and that's really how the rest of my house kind of looks as well. that I use colour in small doses. It's basically a blank canvas in the white, but it's bright. And then I use different colours to highlight it. So this room is mustard for this season, because I've just changed over. We're mustard for the winter. The lounge is got green cushions, and it's got a green rug on the floor, because I think that's bringing nature indoors. And I've got a lovely big green plant just outside the front window, which kind of reflects in. So I like that. So yeah, that's my ideas for home decor and keeping things bright. But we have a very bright home, so you know, and it's not everybody's taste, but it is for us. So.
Gosh, your home is really a work of art, Elaine.
I do like to bring things together, and I think that's from living in you know, in Switzerland and Sweden, places like that. They love to bring nature in, and I love to appreciate nature. So I try to bring as much as I can indoors without cluttering things up.
Clara, how do you sort of work on sort of bringing the light into your home, or do you have a different take on it?
Well, I do love white walls. However, my ex-husband used to joke that if I could just paint everything white, I'd have everything white. But having kids, they find it too much of a glare and too clinical. So I have, like, this is a soft minty green. This is the kitchen I'm in today, because Jack was using the laptop for tutoring last night, so I'm charging while we're on. And in the living room, I have dove grey and a feature wall with a dusky soft rose. So I do have a double height hall as I come in my front door, and that is white, but I have a massive big 6-foot velvet wall hanging there, which is a massive burst of colour. It's a Libby Walker, very colourful, influenced by Glasgow, and this is Libby Walker. So I bring in colour through light washes of colour on the wall, and you can see here and there that I have the main light on in the kitchen, and it diffuses the light out. But also I'm a massive fan of novelty lighting, so all year round in the kitchen I have coloured paper ball fairy lights up at the window, because I have 2 small windows in the kitchen. I don't know why it was designed without the big depth window, so that brings more light in. And in every room I have small, I don't tend to use the main light, I tend to use smaller lamps, and I tend to have fairy lights at the big windows, and I bring in colour through the accessories and texture through the accessories. So I've just swapped over into having my sheepskin throws, having a pale pink sheepskin cushion, soft pinks and soft sages, adding in colour into my front room. So we swap in textures and we have, and Jocelyn, I agree with you, real plants all the way, but I am not skilled with plants and I accept my limitations. So that's why I have some succulents, which I do manage to keep alive in the bathroom, the kitchen, at the front door, in the living room. But I also add into that by having larger and smaller artificial. And also I have 2 pets, a cat and a dog, and you have to be careful what plants you bring in from a toxic point of view. So that's what I would say. And I keep my windows clean and sparkling. So I do them at least every season, a couple of times per season. And I clean regularly, and I get the kids cleaning regularly to keep surfaces sparkling. We're fortunate in that we live in a very bright home, but it is more muted than yours, Elaine.
Yeah.
Because I'm responsive to the people I share the home with, and the kids would just be like, too much.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that both of you have this kind of quite ingrained habit of changing with the seasons. And I think a client of mine, her parents said, ring in the changes, which I think is maybe more for the new year, but and so her dad would always change the pictures on the wall. So often we have more pictures and more frames than we have wall space for, but they don't have to stay there for good. You know, you can change them. if you have a storage place where you can just put them up or put them in an attic and you can try them out, which was an idea that came up actually last week about photographs. You can have this revolving. So I think what we're talking about now is kind of this idea of change and revolving and not always needing to be exactly the same. And I suppose the speed of change is kind of up to your personality in a way. But it is always lovely, I think, to respond to the seasons. And I'm interested, Elaine, about the changing of clothes. Do you change your clothes seasonally as well, Clara? Do you like swap them around?
I've just cleaned out my wardrobe of the summer dresses that I won't layer because of the length, because of the weight of the fabric, because of the colours. I just wouldn't layer them. And for me, the joy I get of putting them away for at least 6 months and then bringing them out again, and some of them I've forgotten about, and it's like welcoming relatives from abroad for me. I was like, oh. So, and I was saying to both of you that at the weekend, the children and I brought down the Christmas boxes from the loft and had a look through them to reintroduce ourselves to what we have and what we might like to add to, and then we put them back up the loft. So as I do my summer autumn swap out, I also look at the season that's coming ahead and what I want to look out for to add into or what I need to replace. So yeah, I do swap out, put away summer clothes and sandals, and then I enjoy having more space in my wardrobe, more space in my storage area. I'm lucky that I have a loft I can store things away. You might not have a loft, but perhaps you've got space in a cupboard or another area that you can store, or you can flat pack. Maybe you've got under bed storage, and it is lovely to just add in more space to your home, especially as the season changes and we're spending more time indoors.
So you both use this period to kind of look back and look forwards. It's like the clock change. It's like, let's look back and let's look forward and start to kind of look towards what's coming and also what's been gone. And I love the fact that if you do put things away and bring them out again, it is like a reconnection. It's like the joy that you have. Oh, I forgot I had that. And I love kind of cracking open my sort of winter sweaters. But I'm also interested because Elaine, you said that in Scotland we don't really have seasons. We do have seasons, but there's just a lot of wet that goes along with every season.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, and also like when I moved up to Glasgow 9 years ago, I was really struck by the change in light. Like towards winter, it's like 3:30 and it gets dark, and it doesn't get light until 9, and it's just sort of like that. I'm not at all a downhearted person, but there was a good day or so where I really felt quite down, which is really unusual for me, and it was totally the light. It was absolutely so we're gonna, I think, move on to sort of talking a little bit more about ritual. But what's your take on, because we've had this question before about what to do with clothes, Elaine. I remember we had it at the Ideal Home Show. And you said, well, it's kind of just sort of about layering, but actually, so your experience of Scotland is that you just keep most of your wardrobe fairly current, or?
I mean, I do put away my summer clothes, shorts, whenever I get those wee pinny legs of mine out. But yeah, I mean, I would put away things like that, t-shirts, crop top t-shirts, unless I was going to use them at the gym or something like that. So yeah, I do declutter some things out of my wardrobe, but in general, I think sometimes when we're living in such centrally heated houses and all that, we don't always need our big chunky jumpers on, but we do need them for going outside. So we need to have the ability to put them on, or them to be close to hand. So I think when I say that about Scotland, I think that we don't have, like in America, whatever, they would put away all their summer clothes. Their summer clothes would all go away and it would be winter, and, I know that there's big storage units in America where people put all their sort of summer clothes into the storage, and they bring, but that just can't happen here, because our days do fluctuate,
That's easy for you to say.
I think I'll need to get new teeth, honestly. You know, so although it's wet today, it's quite mild today. So you might think, oh, I need my big chunky jacket on to keep me dry, but actually I'm going to go out and then I'm going to be all hot. And then if you're a lady of my age, you get hot all the time anyway. So that's so my wardrobe is very, you know, and that can, you know, also affect what you wear as well. You know, your health. If you're someone who suffers from cold a lot, you would still have your chunky jumpers in the summer. So, or me, who's hot, very hot just now, I still need these lightweight tops around. So it's a difficult one. I think for Scotland as well, and we're going back to the home, there was a tradition, I don't know about you guys with your grandmothers or, you know, grandparents, there would always be a time when they would bring out the big velvet curtains, which would go on to close for the winter to keep the heat in the houses when they were colder. So there was a natural change, you know, they would bring out the nets would be out for the summer, you know, and the linen curtains, but then the winter it would be the velvet curtains that would come, you know, and they would keep the heat in. So there's been natural changes in society anyway, but it's just adapting, I guess.
Yeah, I think it also, like what you said about like our homes are a lot more sort of centrally heated now, and also we move from our home to our car or to the bus or whatever, and so it's those short transitions where you can totally get soaked, but they're a lot shorter, aren't they? There's less, and I'm finding that kind of living kind of currently in the country for a bit, you know, just the mud and just the wet, and we need bigger transition areas. And it's always struck me, even in Glasgow, that my transition area is really hard because you come in really wet, you need to dry off your clothes, but actually a lot of I'm not in a modern house, but a lot of our homes or converted homes are not designed with these transition areas. So what are you supposed to do? Like, how do you not bring dirt into the house and yet get dry and warm as quickly as possible? So I'm really up for when I work with my clients. I was just talking to one the other day about, you know, she's got a coat stand full of coats and needing to put some of those away because they're not used or let go of them, and actually create a bigger space. So, you know, you can take off the wet clothes and just think, you know, I'm going to be coming in wet. This water needs to go somewhere. You know, it needs to drip. It needs to be, we need sort of shoes and how we manage that. And often these transition areas are kind of shoved into a corner, or they're really not. I mean, you've got a lovely entrance, Clara, because you kind of you've worked out really well. But
that's a really interesting and relevant point you're making there, Zem. And I was working with a client this week on doing that too. They have a dog and they also look after dogs regularly every week. So in any given week, they might have up to 7 dogs in their house at different times. So there's all the stuff that they need for when they take the dogs out the walk, but also for the dogs to dry off small to large dogs. And whether you've got dogs, which do, if you're taking them out daily, you've got a lot of mud and wet you're bringing potentially into your home, or whether you're a person that just likes to go out and walk, or young kids, or whatever stage you're at, you're right, we do need transitional areas. And I think this is a great time of the year to think about traditional areas, especially on the back of lockdown, and through the summer we had so much wet. I know we were lucky at the beginning of lockdown to have so much sun and early sunshine, but I think that's something perhaps we could maybe have to think about and bring into next week's Clutter talk. How have people had a chance to look at their transition area? What have they done? Has it improved things? How has it improved things? Because I think as well, when we were talking about seasonally affective disorder, it's much easier to get yourself out the door if what you need is there at the door, if you know where your keys are, if you know where your wet weather clothing is, if you know that when you come back in, you've made a space to hang up that coat, even if it's in the back of an internal door, that it can drip onto linoleum, or you've got some old newspapers or towels to hand. It's much easier to have a ritual and to move into that ritual and keep that ritual going if you've set yourself up to start.
I think that's a really good point, Clara. And just to sort of welcome everybody who's maybe just joined now, you've got Clara Moore of Joy of Space down at the bottom of the screen. You've got Elaine Mckinlay to my, I don't know, is that my right or my left as you're watching it? I don't know. She's of Clear Mountain. And I'm Dr. Zen Moffat of, what am I? Insightful Moves, I think. But I've also founded a charity called Clutter, which is kind of my main thing at the moment, which is a support group. Peer support group, and we're talking about transitions and changing of the seasons, and Elaine's just spoken about using the clock, changing of the clock as an ideal time to both look back and look forward, to take a stock of what it is, your bills, your clothes, but use it as a prompt. And what's great about this time of year is you get an extra hour, whereas in the spring you get an hour less, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, we're talking about how where you live in whatever particular part of the country, how you can work. And we just started talking about transition areas. And if anybody has any questions, we had a comment from Jocelyn earlier, didn't we, Elaine, on YouTube? Any more questions coming through, or is it quite silent at the moment?
Jocelyn has said that one thing that she likes to do is to sit by the window. And I think that's a really good point when we're talking about, I'm not saying that Jocelyn has seasonal affective disorder, but I'm just saying in general, when we're feeling a bit lower because the light is going, that sitting by the window is a good idea. And often, I don't know about you ladies, when I go in to some clients for the first time, I often find that their blinds and curtains and all that are very closed. They're only sort of living with a small amount of light coming in. And one of the first things I do is open everything up and open the windows, and that refreshes the room, and the people go, oh gosh, there is a world out there. So I think a habit of opening your curtains wide, and making a little hygge, and hygge is Hygge, and it's a Danish form of coziness. And my company at Clear Mountain, we work on the logom and hygge style of Scandinavian style of your home and your lifestyle. So one of the main things it says in that is to get yourself a lovely little cozy space by a window, where you can pop your cup of hot chocolate or coffee or whatever it is you want to have. You've got a nice cozy seat, you've got your lovely book or magazine or laptop, whatever you want to do, and you're sitting in a nice space. And sometimes just having the intention to make a space that is going to be your space to relax in and to gather the energy from outdoors is a really good thing. I don't know about you guys, what do you think about that?
Well, I was just thinking that there was an article that my mum shared with me in the Times, I think, this weekend, and it was on the hygge. And a couple of things came up which resonate, which was, they seem to be a lot more outdoorsy. So they'll meet socially outdoors. So I bet their transition, when the good homes, their transition spaces are really blooming good, because they're used to, they'll go out and they'll socialize outdoors. So they'll meet up with a friend for a walk rather than, and whereas, and I think that's really good to get that. Like, I love that idea of sitting by the window and just, and it's the same, I think, I'm sure Clara agrees, but a lot of the kind of going to, that they're not maximizing the light. And there's a lot within there literally about opening the windows, cleaning the windows, opening the curtains, having a chair by the window, and really working with the natural environment that we do have, that we haven't decimated yet, working with it. And the great thing about the sun is that it does rise every day, even if it's just for very short periods in the winter. But what I also loved, I'm off on one now, but what I also loved about the hygge and that sensibility is that it's okay to feel down. They kind of accept it. Winter is a time when you do hunker down, and apparently, according to the article, like, antidepressants are not a shameful thing. They're just, that person's taking some time off work. And I remember a long time ago watching a documentary about Greenland, I think, which is completely dark in the winter, and it's culturally recognized. Well, this is just the time when you hunker down. It's not a problem.
Yeah,
it's not an issue.
Yeah.
It's just what you do. And then you come out in the spring. And as an anthropologist, one of my criticisms of our culture is that we force everybody to be positive and upbeat all the time, to go to 9 to 5 work, when it's really not working with the seasons, and it's really our bodies are resisting it. So, but there's only so much obviously each of us can do within our work to be able to organise that. But I think just to recognise it, that it's okay. It's okay to feel a bit down. It's not it's not so bad. I mean, it's really bad to feel really down and to get stuck. But maybe this is where, Clara, you have some really good thoughts about rituals, about both sort of personal, family or cultural rituals that we can tap into that can help us kind of get through and come together, just within ourselves or within our close family or within our culture, our society, of how we can help us through what can be a really, really challenging time for many of us out there. But actually, before I do, can one of you give a succinct definition of what SAD is, seasonal affective disorder? Because some people might know it kind of only came into kind of common parlance like a few years ago.
Well, my understanding is it's when people are affected by the change in the season and the change in the light quality and the amount of light and the vitamin D that they're able to get. So if it's a chemical change in your brain, and some people need a bit more help with that because maybe they're not absorbing that as well, or maybe their moods are a bit more affected. Some of us are more sensitive and affected by certain things than others. For example, I'll cry at TV adverts. I'm a really sentimental, emotional person. My eyes just well up. And that can affect us not just in our emotions, but in our brain chemistry. We're all different. Our brains are all wired different. And some of us need an extra hug, and some of us need an extra light at this time of the year. I don't know if you...
What's important about vitamin D? What does that do?
Vitamin D, I think, helps our body absorb light and use light. I actually would need to look that up.
Good question.
I think a good point is also to say that although the majority of people possibly get it more in the winter months, some people do get it in the summer. And it's just the seasonal change. So it's not all about just the winter, but I think it's highlighted more in the winter. I looked up a few things yesterday just to get a bit more information on this, and there were a few really good tips to managing it at the beginning if you're feeling a wee bit like that. And one was to write a diary to establish the trends and triggers that made you feel like that, which I thought was a really good point. If you're getting the same sort of feeling at the same time of day, let's keep a note of that and find out why that's happening. Or is it a day when it's dull and overcast, or is it a day when it's really rainy, or things like that? So a diary is quite a good thing, first of all. The second thing that's
really interesting. So keep almost a weather diary.
Or emotion diary.
Moods, or an emotion diary. So I was working with someone who had, I think, ADHD, Asperger's, and her brain, she said, was like a weather storm. It was like she explained what was going on in her head as like all these weathers and the sort of the emotions, but like weather fronts. So we said we just needed like a weather forecast for her brain. So I really like that idea of kind of writing a diary, but that tallies in with the sort of the BBC weather forecast.
The next thing they suggested was to make the most of the outdoors. So we know that obviously is good. And, natural light, fresh air, even in the rain. So that comes back to, if we've got the right equipment to go out walking in the rain, there's no excuse for us not to go out in the rain. And
the right place to put it,
and the right
place to look after it. Yes.
And again, as I've done a few videos on the natural shapes of the trees and the bushes and all that, we subconsciously pick that up, and that can help us to relax and to change make a little brain break, from how you're feeling. If you're feeling down and you're walking suddenly in nature and you're suddenly getting a smell of the rain on a tree or something like that, all these things can trigger things in the brain, just to give the brain a little bit of a break from, I'm feeling really low here, but oh gosh, that's a lovely smell that I've just smelled. Clara, sorry.
So we've got a diary, we've got getting out in the fresh air, and Clara's got a point.
Well, no, I was just going to say, when Elaine said there's no excuse not to go out, that's not to say that we don't acknowledge that just taking that step, if you're already feeling stressed or your mood's a bit low, that can be very hard to actually take that step to go outdoors. So what can help is if you have a friend that you say you are going to meet for a socially distanced walk, or if you make a promise to yourself that you're going to post a letter or collect a newspaper or something, or perhaps go into your back garden and lift up some of the fallen leaves, but to try and tie that in with an agreement you're making with yourself or someone else to get over that first initial hurdle. Ask for help, ask for one of your friends to meet you for a walk, and you can be socially distanced.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean that as it's not an excuse to go out. I didn't mean it in a derogatory way. I just meant that if you are feeling stuck and you think, I can't get myself to go out, if you have the right clothing or you have the right boots or whatever it is, then really you can, but you've just got to be prepared. Now, I know there are people who are infirm and can't go out. I appreciate that, and I don't mean that. I didn't mean that in a derogatory way at all. There's no excuse, but just, you know, making sure that if you are able, then there is a way to get out.
Yeah, and I mean, what you can do is literally just open your window and stick your head out. I mean, I was kind of like when all the trains kind of went aircon and you couldn't stick your head out the window anymore. Some people maybe have got their heads knocked off, so maybe that's not such a good example. But you know, it was lovely, kind of romantically, of, you know, having that air come in. So even if it's, you know, you really don't feel like going out, just open that window. And just get some air going through. And then you can shut it after a few minutes, but just open it. Glasgow wind is brilliant for that. You can clean the air within about 30 seconds. That's right. And I've got windows at the front and back of my house, so it's just
airflow.
Yeah.
The other thing that they said was to make a schedule highlighting peak times in the day when you may be more affected by this. So this is quite interesting if you're working from home, because obviously at times when you're feeling you're affected by it more, you're maybe not as productive. So by doing your diary and finding out when, you know, you're feeling lower, you could maybe schedule meetings in parts of the day when you know that that's actually not, you know, hopefully that's not actually going to be an issue. So that was something I thought was actually quite good, that you could sort of think ahead once you'd realised what things were triggering you or whatever. If you're working from home and you knew a meeting was coming in the middle of the day when you're lowest, it's not actually a good idea that you're in that meeting. Now, I appreciate sometimes you have to go to a meeting, but if you're the person making the meeting, then, you know, maybe that's something that you could look at, you know, or this is like meeting friends or anything like that, you know. So actually that was a really good one. Plan ahead for activities, plan relaxation activities and routines, and I think you're going to talk about that in a minute, Clara, and plan spare time to recharge. So there were really quite some good top tips actually that came up. Just before we talk to Clara, Chrissy's just said there about vitamin D, that vitamin D is really, really important for everybody. And I don't know about you, but I take a vitamin D spray every morning into my cheek, just to give me that. It's good.
You spray it on your cheek?
No, inside your cheek. Just 2 sprays into
it. And it said vitamin D deficiency is defined as a vitamin D level that's below normal. Most commonly occurs in people when they have an inadequate sunlight exposure, in particular sunlight with inadequate ultraviolet B rays, UVB. So getting to your window, opening the window, even if you can't get outdoors. And I know that Jocelyn said earlier, why would you not sit at the window? It's rocket science. Well, it might be, for example, one of the clients I worked with recently had a great feeling of shame because they hadn't had anyone in their house for a decade. They hadn't decluttered for a decade. So they didn't have their windows their curtains open. They weren't letting fresh air into their house. So that's something that's instantly improved for them. They're now opening their curtains, they're now opening their windows. And when I was working with them, they had the back door open for a throughput for fresh air. And for me, both of you ladies have been in my front room, so you'll know there's a massive, massive big window, and I have a net curtain up in the summer. The kitten has shredded it. So from the outside, so what I did was I took it down and gave to the kids to decorate for Halloween, and I'll put it back up shredded. But at the moment, I don't have another one up because the kitten's just going to shred it again. A blind I put down at night. So I'm probably spending less time in that room because I live on a crescent and people can see in, and it's too much for me. I don't want to be like a TV show for people coming up and down the street. So there are all sorts of reasons why we might not sit at a window, and I can't wait to put another curtain up. In fact, I might just get one because it's worth it for me to have a bit of more privacy. But when we're talking about what the interesting point you were making, Elaine, about a diary and what we're doing in our home, it might be as simple as something around meal times. For me, once I've eaten, I'm instantly happier. I'm eating a meal thinking about the next meal I'm going to be enjoying. So I was thinking yesterday, I really don't want to do this task. And I sat and had lunch and I'm like, right, I'm going to do this task. And my son, I had to change his tutoring because it was at 5:30 and we didn't have time to have tea before it. We changed it to 6:30. He'd had tea and the tutor said, online tutoring, she said, what a difference. He was so chatty, he was so engaged. Every other week we've done it. He's been really hard to involve and to even get to chat to me. So something as simple as when you have your meal can make a massive difference to your day, I think. And we were talking about rituals earlier, and I was reading a book recently which is called The Body Keeps Score. I know that's back to front.
The Body Keeps the Score. Who's it by, Clara? By
Bessel van der Kolk. Bit of a name there. Bessel van der Kolk, and it's mind, body and brain in the transformation of trauma. And that sounds very hard going, but it's just talking about stress as well. And there's a lovely quote that in there by Pierre Janet, I think you would say, from 1889, who talks about the pleasure of completed action, and which I think ties into being fully alive in the present and letting your home tell the story that you want it to tell. And I think that ties in really nicely with rituals and changes of seasons and just changing our own mindset as well as our external environment. Mm-hmm. And there was also another quote by Pierre Janet: traumatic stress is an illness of not being able to be fully alive in the present. And I think not traumatic stress necessarily, but just when you're stressed, you're not able to be present in your immediate life, in your home. So I think that when we have these rituals that tie us into feeling like our lives are part of, we're more in control of our life, more in control of our day, then that's a really helpful thing. For me, some of my personal rituals are, at this time of the year, I gather like Christmas books, and I really enjoy reading them because there's less light. I know that I'm going to be at home more. I want to be cozy. And that for me, I don't like television too much. So that for me is a part of my kind of hygge, sitting and being cozy with a hot drink. The children and we do a declutter of our personal spaces. So the children instinctively, we did that last weekend, we instinctively will go round our home and look at what doesn't fit anymore, either clothes wise, what needs replaced, what we want to keep, how we want to keep it, what we want to let go of. Because from now onwards, so much comes into your life. Usually with Halloween, there's Halloween treats, there's Halloween decorations, there's Christmas coming. And for things to come into your life, there has to be space in your physical environment, but also your head space. So by starting that off in October, end of September, October, it feels less rushed for us as a family. It feels less busy for us as a family. So I know it might seem quite early for some people to get down the Christmas box and have a look in it and put it away again. But as a single mum with 2 kids and 2 pets and all the appointments and things that we have going on in our daily life, then that works for us. So it's finding rituals that work for you in a time scale that work for you, and working out also what part of the day or part of the week is a good time for you to do that. Sunday for us is not a good day because we just like to relax, be outdoors, or have a pajama day and be indoors. So we never ever start something off on a Sunday because it's just going to lead to arguments and stress and loud voices in our home, because we all like to decompress on a Sunday. So it's working out what part of your week as well as what part of your day works for you.
Elaine, do you have any rituals? We've had your clock changing one.
Not really. I mean, I'm in a different situation from Clara. My boys have left home, are big men, you know, and live. In fact, one lives in Sweden actually. And going back to that about the way they live their life, obviously the shorter days there, but he is constantly outdoors. I mean, just like Meg, I just want to go there. I just want to be there. He is constantly outdoors, constantly doing things outdoors. His girlfriend Nikki's parents live in a beautiful part of the country, and their house has a lovely landing area, like you're just saying there, where they walk in the door. And it was interesting when we went to see them, because all their boots were all in a line, and their jackets were all hanging, and the hats were all up, and you know. And yeah, I think it's just adapting to where you live and what works for you and what space you have. And you're right, Zem, I think our homes really are built now in a way where we don't have that. So we maybe have to try to create that.
I think we have to get it back. I mean, particularly if we're being encouraged with COVID to spend more time outdoors, social distance, whatever, but to have the fresh air is coming in as a really strong antidote to it. Then to have those transition areas, we're going to have to, all of us, sort of start creating them better.
Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, I just probably get the sort of heavier jackets down. I mean, obviously we're skiers, so we just bring all that sort of winter stuff down, and we've got that, and we're out no matter what the weather is. So, and we're lucky enough to be healthy to do that. Yeah.
I also love rituals like cultural rituals like bonfire night, where you can get all your sort of waste bits of wood together and kind of burn them. And then, I suppose that coming in of the new year, which is kind of a time to sort of refresh and get everything out and kind of give the house a good clean. And I like joining in with those sort of cultural rituals. And some of them are old, some are coming in. So for next week, it's the National Organising Week, organised by Apdo, which is the Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers that Elaine, Clara and I are all members of, and Tilo Flocker is a member of as well, who joined us last week. And I just checked on the website, and they've got a great wee programme of things coming up. So I'm going to share the screen. And of the Apdo website. So it's Association of Professional Declutterers, Association of Declutterers and Organisers. And can people see it now?
Yeah.
Is it coming? Fantastic. And so if you go to that website, and then if you go to events, and then it's the National Organising Week. And down on National Organising Week, here we have, it's from the 2nd to the 8th of November. And you can join in. So it's 16 years of being an association of professional declutterers and organisers. And in this week, on the Monday, the question is, where do I start? And you can join in and get feedback from different professionals. And on Tuesday, it's organising your home for the current times. And Rosie Barron of the Tidy Coup will be blogging about her recommendations. Wednesday, they're inviting everybody to show them their workspace. And Thursday, we have top 10 organising products as recommended by Apdo professional organisers. So do feel free to go onto the website. As I said, it's the Association of Apdo.co. Yes?
Can I just say
I'm
that
going to stop sharing now. Yeah.
Tuesdays will be a great one to have a look at because Rosie is lovely. She is like a superwoman. She has 5 children she homeschools. She has about 4 horses, 5 dogs. She has a business as well as a professional organizer. So yeah, hers will be good tips. She'll be giving good tips because you can imagine the amount of organization that takes.
Absolutely. Well, yeah.
And during that week, sometimes we donate days. So I'm going to be donating a few sessions to different clients that week, just to get things moving, because sometimes people are just a little bit stuck. And also, you know, financially, possibly sometimes people are stuck. So just for us as well, giving back, it's a nice time to donate some sessions. So, you know, if anybody is interested in anything, then have a look on our websites, and also, you know, you can contact us to see what's arranged, what we're doing that week. But it's a really good time, and as I say, using the time of the year to get things moving is good. Yeah.
As Elaine says, if you contact us and we'll see what availability we have. Elaine and I in the past have enjoyed donating a day together, but obviously at this time we're not working together on the same day. We work with clients together separately on different days or morning and afternoon, but because of the current situation, we don't work at the same time in a person's home.
Well, if anyone has any questions for next week, then please do let us know and we'll try and answer them. So next week, we're going to be looking at the National Organising Week, and which will be really exciting. So from me, Zem of Insightful Moves, and from Elaine of Clear Mountain and Clara of Joy of Space, we thank you all very much for watching us and listening to our prattle today. It was lots of fun, and we wish everybody all the best for the change in seasons. Don't forget to change your clocks.
No.
Bye, everybody.